What is going on, guys? My name is Sena and welcome back to another video. In this video, we're going to be talking about 5 common mistakes that every beginner makes in Valorant. Even if you aren't a beginner and you've been playing for a little while, I'm sure you still make at least some of these mistakes in your games. It's been a very long time since I made one of these common mistakes videos for you guys, so if you do end up enjoying this video, don't forget to drop a like down below and also subscribe to the channel if you have not already. I want to get more consistent with my long form video uploads, so if you have any video suggestions that you want me to make a video about, don't forget to drop those down in the comment section below. Anyways guys, with all of that being said, let's jump right into the first common mistake. The first common mistake is one that I actually see in a lot of players and one that isn't really talked about too much, and this mistake is not knowing when to hold an angle or to swing an angle. Holding an angle is when you're staying in one spot, strafing back and forth with your crosshair placed, waiting for the enemy to swing you. And swinging is when you are the one peeking out and counter strafing to take the fight. Holding angles and swinging angles are both something that you are going to have to learn how to do, but one thing that not a lot of people talk about is when you should be doing one or the other. Generally speaking, swinging is much riskier and more dangerous than holding an angle. When you swing, you're putting yourself out in the open and basically banking off that kill for you to survive. Despite this, you generally have the upper hand in a fight when you are the one swinging on someone because they have to react to you. A general rule of thumb to go by is you want to swing someone if you know where they are and you know that they are alone. The name of the game for Valorant is to isolate fights. I've preached about isolating 1v1s many times on this channel, and that is no different for swinging or holding. Generally, when you're holding an angle, you're holding an angle that an enemy could possibly come from, but you don't know if there's someone there or not. If someone does come around the corner and peek you, that's a 1v1 right there, so you're taking your chances on that fight. When you're swinging though, you could accidentally swing into 5 people and just instantly get mowed down. If you know that someone is trapped in a corner, for example, and they can't get out, that is a great time to swing them. 99% of the time, swinging someone who's stuck in a corner is a very easy kill. If you're playing a character like Jett and Reyna, you can abuse swinging a lot more because you can get away with doing it for free. Swinging off your teammates is also a really important thing. Like if you hear your teammate fighting and you swing out to help them, that's a great move. By nature of the game, you're going to be holding angles a lot more while you're defending, but swinging a lot more angles while you're attacking. But don't forget to use both to your advantage on either side. Holding in an off angle is very strong as well because generally the enemies won't expect you to be there and you can get some easy kills on unsuspecting players. Understanding how and when to hold an angle and swing an angle is something that you need to understand if you want to improve at Valorant. Hopefully that explanation that I gave you guys made sense, but this is a skill that takes a long time to develop. Moving on from this, let's talk about the second common mistake that every beginner makes in Valorant. This second mistake is facing the wrong way while you're planting the spike. If you guys didn't already know, the direction that you're facing while you're planting actually matters. When you plant the spike, it'll go in the direction that you're facing. If you're planting the spike in a corner, you always want to plant facing the corner because then the defenders will have less room around the spike to defuse from. This makes it much easier to get a kill while spamming the bomb when they're defusing. If you're planting next to a sage wall, you also want to look away from the sage wall because if you look at it, you're gonna break that wall when you plant the spike. This is something that a lot of new players aren't aware of, so make sure to keep note of this if you didn't know already. Moving on from this, let's talk about the third common mistake. The third common mistake that I see a lot actually is rotating before contact. Rotating before contact is different than over-rotating, so let me explain. Over-rotating is when the enemies are showing presence somewhere, so everybody rotates over there, but it ends up not actually being that site, and the enemies get to rotate to the other site for free. Rotating before contact is when you're playing A main, for example, and you don't see anybody there, so you just assume that it's clear, so then you start rotating. The problem with this is, they haven't shown presence anywhere else on the map, so just because you didn't see them there doesn't mean that they can't be waiting. I see a lot of players just holding the main angle and then rotating as soon as nobody's there. They could be slowly walking up, they could be hitting late, they could be running a default. You just don't know, and rotating too early is definitely a bad habit that I see a lot of players have. Make sure it's confirmed and that you know that the enemies are hitting a site before you fully commit to that rotate, especially if you are holding a site by yourself or you're playing a character like Killjoy where you need to be around your utility. I'm personally very stubborn when it comes to rotating, and I need to be absolutely certain that the enemies are rushing the other site before I leave my site because I've been faked on way too many times. Let's move on and talk about the fourth common mistake. The fourth common mistake that I see a lot in newer players is walk clearing. Walk clearing is when you're holding shift while you're going around clearing angles. This is pretty bad for a few reasons. First of all, your walking speed is much slower, so if you walk into an angle that someone is holding, you are pretty much as good as dead. Secondly, this can lead to a bad habit of not coming to a full stop before you get your first shot off, making it inaccurate and making your fights very sloppy and scrappy. In general, this is a very sloppy form of movement, and you want to make sure that you're very snappy with your movement, only clearing angles using A and D. The thing is you can still do this while being silent with something that I call the silent step. If you guys didn't already know, there is a distance that you can move in Valorant without holding shift and not making any sound. This is the silent step range, and you can do this to peek and clear angles while you're walking up and don't want to make your presence known. I do this all the time, and it's a great form of movement that I would recommend that you guys practice. In general though, you don't want to hold W or hold shift while you're clearing your angles, and it can lead to bad habits in your movement. I see a lot of players do this still and struggle with getting kills and struggle with having bad movement, so this is something that you should definitely look into if it's a habit of yours. And finally, let's talk about the fifth and final common mistake. This fifth common mistake is arguably one of the most important, and it is not understanding how distance from angles works. In Valorant, the distance that you are from an angle actually matters. You always want to be as far away from an angle as possible when you're peeking it so that the enemy does not see you first. I'll throw up a diagram on screen to show you guys what I'm talking about, but you never want to position yourself in an angle where you're really close to an angle. If you're gonna play in a spot like this, I'd recommend sitting out a little bit on an off angle so you can potentially catch your enemy off guard, but generally speaking, the enemy will have the upper hand when swinging an angle like this. Some of you OGs to the channel will know that I've talked about this many times, and in my first ever VOD review, this is one of the major points that I brought up. You'll see top pros and high ranked players doing this all the time, where they stay far away from an angle where they're swinging because they know that that'll give them an advantage in the fight that they're about to take. When I started peeking from as far away from the wall as I could while only using A and D to peek, I noticed that I was winning so many more of my gunfights. And I think that pretty much covers everything I wanted to talk about in this video. In this video, I showed you guys 5 common mistakes that every beginner makes at some point in Valorant and how to fix this mistake. Just to quickly recap this video, the first mistake was not knowing when to swing or hold an angle. Mistake number 2 is facing the wrong way while you're planting the spike and making sure that you're always facing the right way to give yourself the biggest advantage. The third mistake is rotating before contact has been made anywhere on the map, which can lead to over-rotating and lose you rounds. The fourth mistake was walk clearing and understanding the importance of movement when clearing your angles. And finally, the fifth mistake was not understanding distance from angles and making sure that you're positioning yourself as far away from a wall when you're peeking to grant yourself the biggest advantage in a fight. Hopefully you guys found this video helpful and enjoyable, and if you did, don't forget to drop a like down below and also subscribe to the channel for more content. If you guys have any questions or concerns about anything that I mentioned in this video, don't forget to drop that down in the comment section below. I have a Discord server linked down in the description below. You guys should come join up on that. We have a super chill community. We would love to have you. Like I mentioned towards the start of the video, I want to get more of these long form videos out to you guys, so hopefully you guys enjoy that. Anyways guys, with all that being said, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day or night to watch this video, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace out.
Sunday night I'm all alone. I ain't in my feelings cause I know they're strong. Took my time and now I'm here and now they move along. They all tell me I got shit to prove. Yeah, you're welcome to. I know you ain't got a thing to do.